your life, you've probably seen thousands of film shots, but what are the common qualities of those that stick with us the most?
One of the primary ones is strong composition. But what exactly is composition?
Composition refers to how the elements inside of the frame and the camera are arranged. But how can we approach it? What are its possibilities? These are all questions that we will be exploring today, but firstly, there are two general approaches towards composition: realism and formalism. Realism emphasizes the experience of people in their day-to-day lives and its content and avoids altering reality in its form. It only employs compositional techniques that show how people literally see reality, such as via eye-level shots, long takes, natural lighting, and objective wide shots. Whereas formalism manipulates reality through many conventions, often to express ideas and emotions. Its composition tends to have shots that purposefully use compositional influencers to convey a character's subjective experience, and shots that have a more organized mise-en-scène. Many films mix both of these styles, but they tend to favor one over the other. The style that you lean towards more significantly affects how you approach the three functions of composition, which are storytelling, visual beauty, and evoking emotion. There are two primary ways in which we can tell the story through composition: visibility and creating subtext. Visibility in composition is arranging the camera and the elements inside of the frame in a way in which the key information is clear. Visibility tells the story by making the visual information conveying it easily discernible. We reach visibility by ticking checkboxes, such as whether there's enough lighting and whether nothing's blocking key information. However, key information can look clearer by employing something called compositional influencers. These are visual techniques that direct the viewer's eye to key information in the frame. Additionally, compositional influencers can fulfill the function of visual beauty by adding to how pleasant it is to look at the image. For example, visual symmetry conveys a sense of beauty by creating order. It produces patterns one can identify, and in the process reduces confusion or a sense of randomness. However, if we want to add more depth, then we could use composition to express subtext. Composition can help communicate subtext by arranging the frame in a way in which symbols are visible. But composition can also create subtext by having the arrangement of the camera and the organization of the elements inside of the frame themselves express subtext. Subtext in composition falls into two categories, which are developmental and non-developmental. Developmental subtext is when the subtext in the composition displays the character's development or the development of an idea. The visual technique in the context of the film conveys meaning, and altering the technique shifts its meaning. For example, in American Beauty, composition expresses Lester's character development through blocking. In films, usually the bigger the size of a subject, the more powerful they seem, and the smaller they are, the less power they seem to behold. As Lester takes more and more control over his life, he becomes bigger and bigger in the frame. In contrast, non-developmental subtext is when the subtext created by composition conveys an idea whose meaning remains static. But what can we convey with compositional subtext? Well, there are many possibilities, but some of the most common uses of creating subtext via composition is to reveal a character's emotional landscape, the film's key themes, and power dynamics. For example, in Citizen Kane, after Kane loses both his wife and his campaign, there's an extremely low-angle shot. It functions to reflect Kane's isolation, as the low angle isolates Kane against an empty background, his deserted headquarters. In Taste of Cherry, one of the key themes is about how our perspective shapes our experience in the world. The story consists of a man planning to kill himself, and his attempts at trying to find someone who will bury him under a cherry tree. From the audience's perspective, they feel a sense of sorrow given this information about the character. However, Kiarostami often uses an extreme wide shot which looks like the perspective of a distant watcher. These two different perspectives evoke two completely different emotional experiences. Therefore, the composition emphasizes one of the film's major themes, being how perspective forms our experience in the world. In terms of how compositional subtext creates a sense of power, we already covered that in the American Beauty example. Now, sometimes we're tempted to give absolute meanings to elements of certain compositional influencers. It is easy to claim that framing from a low angle automatically presents a character as powerful, and that framing from a high angle presents them as defeated. However, as we saw in the previous examples, these techniques do not have absolute meanings, although in some films they do have such meanings that are traditionally ascribed to them. In most cases, the context of the film determines the meaning of the compositional subtext. There are various strategies to evoke emotion using composition, and one of the main ones is by conveying the character's emotions, which is approached in various ways. One approach is a simple thing, such as making an actor's facial reactions visible. Mirror neurons are neurons whose responses mirrors what we observe and often makes us feel what the other person is feeling or doing. Actors use their facial expressions to show the emotion their characters are feeling. Seeing a character feel these emotions oftentimes evokes emotion by causing our mirror neurons to feel a similar emotion. You probably felt something watching these clips of people crying without even any context about these characters. Beyond that, our emotional responses are significantly impacted by how much we care about the character. The more we care about a character, the stronger we feel the emotion they are experiencing. However, if all filmmakers did was show characters feeling an emotion, we would get bored of it. If we want to get more subtle and engaging, we can convey a character's emotional landscape through compositional subtext, and often as a consequence evoke a similar emotion the character feels in the audience. Instead of seeing the character's emotions being primarily conveyed by actors, it is also being expressed through compositional influencers. For example, in The Shawshank Redemption, shortly after Brooks is released from Shawshank, there's a shot of him in a bus. Darabont uses blocking to emphasize Brooks's isolation, as each extra has their outline pointing outwards, but Brooks's eyes are looking forwards. This suggests his feelings of isolation because he is shown as being different from everyone else. Seeing this subtext makes the audience feel a sense of isolation, even if we are not consciously decoding it, as our mirror neurons are simply going off. Nonetheless, this proves that little details, such as the directions that the actors are pointing, can have a strong emotional impact on the audience. However, there are also other strategies to evoke emotion as well, such as using the composition to juxtapose the feelings of the characters with the image. In addition, certain ideas that are created through subtext, like a film's key themes, can evoke an emotional response if it does have emotional weight. These strategies work towards two emotional purposes: creating emotion and mood. Emotion is a short-lasting feeling that composition helps create, which is diffused by specific situations, such as Brooks's story. Whereas mood is a long-lasting emotion that composition helps create, which is sourced by the overall story. This tends to occur when we use a visual technique consistently in the film to achieve the same emotional effect. For example, throughout The Shining, there are wide shots with an extreme wide-angle lens to create an unsettling mood. This makes the characters appear small and powerless, and the evil hotel to be grand and powerful, which unsettles the audience, as it tells them that these characters are doomed. It also adds to our sense of unease, because we know that these characters are going to face overwhelming danger, but they do not. Every shot has composition, but those images that astonish us for a lifetime are not the ones that are just clear and beautiful, but those who carry meaning and emotional weight. Ensure that your images direct the viewer's eye to key information and that they're visually pleasing, and from there, it's up to you to discover how you will convey your message and evoke emotion through composition. Remember that there are boundless possibilities in composition. Remember, a new image is created with each slight change in composition. Remember that stories can last with us forever through composition.